Hello, welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. I know this is a day or so late, but I just wanted to react to some of the stuff in the press conference. As my political reactions. Just see what's going on, and put my guy next door commentary next to it. Nothing profound, but I like these press conferences. I just want to see what she has to say that might be any difference, and I'll stop and start it as we go.
Every day. In other news, the Trump administration has announced we will put an end to Joe Biden's illegal student loan bailout attempts. No student loan has been referred to collection since March of 2020. That comes to an end. On May 5th, the Department of Education will resume involuntary collections for borrowers with defaulted federal student loans. The student loan portfolio controlled by the federal government is nearly $1.6 trillion, but fewer than 4 out of 10 borrowers are in repayment. This is unsustainable, unfair, and a huge liability for American taxpayers. Debt cannot be wiped away, it just ends up getting transferred to others. So, why should Americans who didn't go to college or went to college and responsibly paid back their loans pay for the student loans of other Americans?
Let's see. Let me stop that right there. I agree. I think that people need to pay the loans back, but there's got to be some kind of recognition that the system of lending money to people to go to college is broken. I mean, if you're going to college, if you're going to apply for a loan for most any other thing, you have to justify why you need the loan. There's requirements on getting the loan. There's standards that you have to have. It can't just be giving all of this money to people getting degrees that are worthless, and everybody knows what the worthless degrees are. So why would you let somebody even borrow $100,000 to get an underwater basket weaving degree? Some of the things that sound sophisticated, but you can't get a job with. We know what the job market is. We know what kind of salaries certain jobs bring. And I'm not saying the only loans you give out are for like STEM and shit like that, but those are the loans that could justify higher borrowing because they have a proven track record that you could put a return on an investment. So I think that the lenders are predators and preying on the dreams and aspirations of people who are trying to get a one up. Now, it doesn't take the responsibility from the person from understanding that you just can't be taking out loans and not, doing a research as to whether you could actually repay them. I mean, I've seen everybody's seen the egregious numbers of people having one, two, $300,000 worth of debt with no way of actually paying or making payments based on their salary, and they'll never get out from under. So yeah, I think make these people pay back, make it hurt, and make people do a little bit more diligence before actually uh, going to college. And maybe college ain't for you if you can't afford it. Sometimes some things if you can't afford, you just can't have it. Find another pathway to success. With in the age of internet, there's a whole bunch of things that people could do if they research it other than spending $100,000 to go to an indoctrination camp or college. So, you know what? If Biden, and here's another thing with the Republicans, and this is what pissed me off. If Biden was doing something unconstitutional by trying to pay back the loans when he was in office, how come y'all didn't find a couple of judges to enjoin him? Right? How come y'all didn't do that? I mean, they're doing this shit to you guys at every turn. How come you got some Republican activist judges? How come y'all didn't stop them? How come y'all didn't stop him from flying all of these illegals into the country by using the courts that they're using against you now? So the Republicans, y'all talk big and bad. Okay, how come Letitia James is not indicted yet? That kind of stuff. So stop talking big and let's see some action other than deporting people. Great, but still, you know what? If you got some leg up, use the power you have.
The Trump administration will never force taxpayers to pay student loan debts that don't belong to them. Student loan borrowers need clarity, and we're finally giving it to them. Borrowers will now be clearly expected to repay their loans, and those who default on their loan obligations will face involuntary collections. The government can and will collect defaulted federal student loan debt by withholding money from borrowers, tax refunds, federal pensions, and even their wages. America is $36 trillion in debt. We must get our fiscal house in order and restore common sense to our country. If you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. It's very simple. President Trump will not kick the can down the road anymore. Before we open it up to questions today, I want to commend our pool photographer who is in the room with us today. ABC News photojournalist Melissa Young is retiring after 44 incredible years on the job, covering here at the White House. Melissa, congratulations. You have the largest round of applause I've ever heard in this room.
How come the cameraman didn't give her a little bit of love and let her see what she looks like?
So there's something we can all agree on, and it's you've had an incredible career here covering the White House. So congratulations to you, and we hope you enjoy retirement. I'm sure you will. And everybody else in the room will be very jealous of you as you're enjoying your rest. All right, let's get to it. We have a individual in our new media seat today. His name is Tim Pool. He's a political commentator and a media entrepreneur with millions of followers, a very big platform. Currently hosts Timcast IRL, a daily news and discussions show, and The Culture War, a weekly podcast exploring cultural and political issues. His programs feature in-depth conversations on topics such as free speech, censorship, identity politics, and societal change, often engaging with a diverse range of guests. He's in Washington today because we are also hosting a local media row across the street in the Eisenhower building, which is a testament to our commitment to bring new voices into the White House to cover the president and this administration. So, Tim, why don't you kick us off today?
Yes. Many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by two different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on the unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is one of the reasons we have you in here. And there's many new faces in this room in comparison to the previous administrations. We want to welcome all viewpoints into this room. We welcome unbiased journalists who really care about the truth and the facts and the accuracy. And you rightfully pointed out the Maryland Man story, which I, from this podium, when The Atlantic published it on that very first day, I came to this podium and said, this is wrong. The press in this room have this story wrong. And we have seen more and more evidence come to the table that we have had all along. We were always right. The president was always on the right side of this issue to deport this illegal criminal from our community. And it is despicable to see the media continue to refer to this individual as someone who is just a peaceful man living his life in Maryland. This was and always has been an illegal criminal, an MS-13 gang member, and a designated foreign terrorist. And the administration maintains our position to deport these individuals from our communities. So,
so a little bit of it was like a powder puff piece, but he wanted to give her an opportunity to say it one more time about this so-called Maryland man crap. I tell you what, the Democrats, unfortunately, people have short memories. But I mean, I can almost say that I can't see anybody with any kind of love for America ever voting for a Democrat again. I don't care where they sit. And I think there needs to be more emphasis on the local area now, at the local level, so they can't impose some of the stupidest things that they do, based on identity politics and all this ultra liberal bullshit. So I just think that there's got to be a change in the air to eradicate the country of this kind of thinking. And the only way that can really happen is if you have at least 16 to 20 years of conservative rule, and so I mean, the Republicans need to do something so they don't blow it, That's what they need to do. So they need to be tough. They need to keep moving forward. We need to keep eradicating the ideology in our schools. And it's going to take years to do that. One term of Trump is not going to be enough. So they got to make sure the midterms are taken care of. I mean, they can't dwell on it. They got to just make sure they're in good standing for the midterm. And the presidency, you know what? I could almost guarantee you the Democrats are going to try to run some kind of egghead based on their own politics because they have their own internal battle. They might even be stupid enough to try to run AOC, something like that, and that'll be perfect for the Republicans because I don't think nowhere near half the countries want some crazy loony socialist running the country. I don't care if she's a woman or pretty.
Thank you for being here, Tim. It's great to see you. Thank you. Dasha, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you,
You're
Caroline.
welcome.
I really appreciate it. I have two questions, one on the Pentagon and another on the economy. You said on Fox News that the entire Pentagon is working against Secretary Hegseth, but the people who were fired were Hegseth's own guys. So how do you square that, and what do you say to concerns that that's bad management?
They were Pentagon employees who leaked against their boss to news agencies in this room. And it's been clear since day one from this administration that we are not going to tolerate individuals who leak to the mainstream media, particularly when it comes to sensitive information. And the Secretary of Defense is doing a tremendous job. And he is bringing monumental change to the Pentagon. And there's a lot of people in this city who reject monumental change. And I think, frankly, that's why we've seen a smear campaign against the Secretary of Defense since the moment that President Trump announced his nomination before the United States Senate. Let me reiterate, the president stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth and the change that he is bringing to the Pentagon, and the results that he's achieved thus far speak for themselves.
Is there an FBI investigation into the leaks? The secretary said that these people would be prosecuted. So is the FBI investigating?
You'd have to ask the FBI, you have to ask the Department of Justice on what they plan to do, but certainly we take leaks with the utmost seriously across this administration. You've seen people fired from the Department of Homeland Security. The president has made it clear it's an unacceptable behavior.
And on the economy, Caroline, Peter Navarro said that it's perfectly possible to do 90 deals in 90 days. We haven't seen one just yet. How soon might we see a deal, and what evidence can you share that progress is being made in these trade negotiations?
Sure. Well, I spoke to our entire trade team this morning. There is a lot of progress being made. We now have 18 proposals on paper that have been brought to the trade team. Again, these are proposals on paper that countries have proposed to the Trump administration and to our government. You have Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, Ambassador Greer, NEC Director Hassett, and Peter Navarro, the entire trade team, meeting with 34 countries this week alone. We are moving at Trump speed to ensure these deals are made on behalf of the American worker.
One of the things that y'all have to do is get a couple of deals solidified. I mean, we probably know that there's a lot in the pipeline, but at some point you got to get some of these deals solidified. That's the ultimate thing. The talking phase, I know it's just been soon, but just one deal, two deals with a major country, a big country, saying, okay, we have it. We have London under control. We got the EU. We got this. Or we got that. We got Hong Kong, or whatever it is. Not Hong Kong, but you got South Korea, something like this. Whatever country it is, once it gets done, it needs to be announced, right? And so we can move forward to say, yeah, the tariffs are actually starting to work. Now I see a little nice positive perturbation in the stock market because the tariff news and all that stuff is built in. But the big fish is to have some way of getting China to stop being belligerent children. But that Z can't do anything because the saving face means anything. I mean, if you've seen the most rudimentary Chinese movie, that as a Chinese person, he's got to save face, especially if you're a communist, right? Face means everything, to them. Arrogance means a lot here in the United States, but the kind of arrogance they have to keep power over there is on a whole nother level.
worker and the American people. And just yesterday, it seemed to get a little bit lost in the news, and I think it's a disservice to the American public that it did. The vice president announced terms of reference for a trade deal with India. That is a big deal. We know when we look at the numbers, the monetary trade barriers and the non-monetary trade barriers from India, they have been ripping off the United States and American workers for a very long time. So the fact that the vice president, with Prime Minister Modi on that trip in India, announced these terms of reference, which is essentially a framework to move the ball forward to sign a good trade deal between our two nations, is great progress. And it speaks to the work ethic and the real labor that's being put into this effort by the president's trade team. Sure. Go ahead.
The proposals that you talk about, is that enough to extend the pauses on these reciprocal tariffs, or does the president need to see, these deals inked and signed to offer any sort of additional extension beyond the 90 days?
Well, look, ask me in July when the deadline hits. I know I'll be answering those questions from all of you in this room. There's a lot of time left, and the president's trade team is working again at Trump speed as quickly as they can to ensure that these deals can be made.
Well, the key is that they have a deadline. Okay, she must have mentioned that before. In July, a lot of stuff has to be done by July. This is their own timeline, so that's a good idea. So let's see what happens.
Are any of those conversations yet with China happening?
I actually do have something to share on that. I asked the president about this before coming out here, and he wanted me to share with all of you that we're doing very well in respect to a potential trade deal with China. As I mentioned, there have now been 18 proposals in more than 100 countries around the world who are wanting to make a deal with the United States of America, and the president and the administration are setting the stage for a deal with China. So we feel everyone involved wants to see a trade deal happen, and the ball is moving in the right direction. Sure.
Setting the stage for a deal with China, what does that mean? Has the president spoken directly with Xi yet?
I don't have anything to read out on a direct talk between the president and President Xi, but we will continue to keep you updated.
And Secretary Bessent reportedly today told investors that this trade standoff with China he expects will be de-escalating soon because, as he described it, reportedly the situation is unsustainable. Is the president considering taking steps to de-escalate the situation with China?
Again, I just read you words directly from the President of the United States. Those are moments ago. That's where his head is at right now. Sure.
Caroline, I have two questions, one on immigration and one on China. First on immigration. Roughly how many illegal immigrants and aliens do we have in our country, and how many does the administration plan on deporting?
Sure. Well, you'd have to ask the Department of Homeland Security for a specific number, but we suspect it's definitely in the millions, perhaps upwards of 20 million people that were allowed into the country illegally by the previous administration. And the president and his team are focused on deporting as many as we possibly can. And they are moving as quickly as possible. The president's team has made it clear we need more funding from Congress to do more. We need more ICE agents out on the ground doing this very important work. And we also need rogue district court judges to stop acting as judicial activists, trying to block the administration from deporting illegal criminals from our nation's interior. The American public elected the president to do this.
Well, I keep, where's the Supreme Court in this, all of this stuff? And I thought the Congress had, and I know it's not that easy, but it might not get all the votes, but I thought you could limit the powers of the district judges. I think that should be on the table. Johnson should just try to get that thing through the House and then try to win in the Senate. Now, you might have to have cloture for that. They might try to filibuster. I don't know. But that's one. Then two, what about the appeals process? I would imagine you'll automatically appeal all of these judges' lower court rulings. The other thing is the biggest problem I have is how can a judge or anybody else circumvent federal law, right? There's a judge in New York City that says that she's enjoining or she's not allowing ICE to talk to the local police. How could she possibly do that? Isn't there a federal law that says that the states need to comply with certain requirements? How can they circumvent that? Not only the judge, but the local officials been doing that. How is that possible? How is that possible? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, I know they want to somehow, get Trump to, just say to hell with the judges. I'm doing what I'm going to do. I mean, he's only going to be in. I know. I would imagine he'll be a lot more belligerent on the other side of the midterms. And I hope he will be, because some of these judges, man, he should just say to hell with you. What you gonna do about it? And just go about doing what he gotta do. Half the country's gonna be behind him anyway. You let the dogs bark, but the candidates have to move on.
And he's following through with that
And we
promise.
have over 250,000 Chinese nationals in our country right now on student visas. Does the administration believe there's any national security concern when it comes to those over 250,000 Chinese nationals in our country?
Well, as you know, when it comes to foreign visas, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke visas of those who we feel are acting in a adversarial way to our foreign policy interests here in the United States. He has that authority according to the Immigration and Nationality Act. So I would defer you to the State Department for any individual case, but they are looking at individuals who are given the privilege of being on a visa in our country. And if they are acting, again, adversarial to our foreign policy interests, their visa can be revoked, and they should be aware of that. Sure. Go ahead. Yes, I'm calling on you.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
Over the last few weeks, several countries have warned their citizens about travel to the U.S. and the Department of Commerce's own stats know that show that from a lot of countries, the number of visitors is falling. Does the White House have any message for people that might be reconsidering business or tourism travel to the U.S.?
Where did you see that report?
With the statistics coming from the Department of Commerce,
Said what? It's
That-
hard to hear you. Sorry.
that visitors from a lot of countries have fallen in the last 3 months.
I'd have to look at that report to comment on
The report's probably a lie. I think he's making it up.
the merits of it. I think most people around the world recognize the United States of America is a great place to do business. It's a beautiful place to visit, and they should certainly come here because it's a much safer country than it was 4 years ago under the previous president. Libby, good to see you.
A question about this upcoming announcement from HHS today. During the first week of the administration, the FDA announced that it's pulling its plan to ban menthol cigarettes. So 2 questions for you. How do you square a ban on menthol cigarettes being pulled and then announcing this ban on food dyes? And then how does the president feel about this upcoming ban that's that RFK is going to announce?
Sure. Well, look, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the president nominated him because he trusts him to make this country healthy again. It's not just a slogan, it really is a movement that has broken ground across the country. There's millions of people who believe in RFK Jr., Secretary Kennedy, and what he's doing. Don't want to get ahead of HHS with this historic announcement later and the details of it, but obviously the secretary feels that he has reason and evidence to announce the ban on artificial dyes later, and I'll let him speak to that this afternoon. Phil.
And it's about time. A lot of these dyes have been illegal across the world for years. You know, it's the people in opposition against him trying to find out the cause for autism, to try to get rid of some of these illegal dyes, and even the question about the first part of the question this lady has about cigarettes. We all know that they're all bad for you. People might want to smoke cigarettes, but we know. I mean, it's not like we know it's bad for you. So if he has something to say about menthol cigarettes and if they're addicting an extra addiction and says, hey, we want to get rid of that, everybody should just shut up and let them do something to make the country healthy again.
The president started the process of reclassifying more than 50,000 federal employees as Schedule F. We've already seen him march through a number of government agencies. I'm curious, should we expect mass firings, or is this a case-by-case approach, a scalpel or a sledgehammer?
Well, look, as you saw on Friday, the president put out a statement about it. The Office of Personnel Management reclassified workers. They're now called scheduled policy/career. And all the president is trying to do is ensure that federal workers are being held accountable for corrupt behavior. If they are engaging in corruption as a government worker, they should no longer have their job. I think that's pretty common sense. He also believes that bureaucrats should be acting in accordance to the will of the American public who duly elected this president. Not just this president, but all future presidents. If you work for the government, you should be adhering to the will of the American public and advancing the administration's goals and interests. And if you are not doing that, then you should go find another job.
See, I agree with what she's saying right now.
Whose interests you align with. So as for specific firings, I would defer you to the specific agencies, but the president in this move and Office of Personnel Management, it will make it easier to get rid of rogue bureaucrats who are engaging in corruption. Sure.
Real quick, a federal court ruled last Thursday that Google's dominance of online advertising and ad tech markets violated U.S. antitrust laws. I know the president has spoken to a number of folks in big tech, and Google CEO was even at his inauguration. I'm curious, what is the president's reaction to that court ruling?
I'll have to ask him, and I'll get back to you, Phil. You're welcome. John.
Thanks a lot, Carolina. Some economic questions for you. Kevin Hassett has been a key economic advisor to the president in both of his terms. In 2022,
And he still is.
and he still is.
He was just in my office.
Absolutely. In 2022, he said that the independence of the Fed is super important. That's a direct quote. Is that something that the president subscribes to? Does he still believe in the independence of the Federal Reserve?
Well, look, I think the president has made his position on the Fed and on Powell quite clear. The president believes that they have been making moves and taking action in the name of politics rather in the name of what's right for the American economy. The president has the right to express his displeasure with the Fed, and he has the right to say he believes interest rates should be lower. He believes Americans should be able to borrow money cheaper than they currently are right now. And I also spoke to Kevin Hassett about the Fed as well. And he has called into question the Fed's independence and whether they are actually doing things, again, out of the best interest of the economy, or are they doing it for partisan reasons? The president wants to see interest rates lower. He has made that quite clear.
We've also seen, if I may,
See, now I agree with that too. This guy lowered interest rates right before the election to try to give Harris a boost. It didn't work, thank God. And now he's holding President Trump hostage because he hates the president, right? You know, these guys, man, they got to get the shit out of the way, man. Just do business the way you have to. Listen, y'all lost the election. Help the country survive.
I'm sorry, one more, Caroline, just about, I said two economic questions. About the dollar, we've seen the dollar at multi-year lows versus the euro and other currencies around the world. Is it the administration's policy for a strong dollar? How does it view the dollar versus other currencies around the world?
The president wants to see the dollar remain as the world's reserve currency for our long-term fiscal stability and our economic growth. He's been quite clear about that. Sure. And then to the woman behind you, who I haven't seen before, welcome. Go ahead, Mary.
Earth Day and then the Supreme Court, if that's okay.
That's right. It's Earth Day.
Yes.
Happy Earth Day, everyone.
I saw the president truthing about the garbage pileup from China and the Pacific, and then I believe Lee Zeldin is headed to San Diego to investigate the pile of sewage from Mexico. Can you speak to what the White House has planned for Earth Day and anything in that arena?
Sure. I do have points from the EPA. Administrator Zeldin is doing a fantastic job, and they are always sharing their accomplishments with the White House, which we very much appreciate. He will be traveling. I believe he's in California today for sewage situation. Here you go. Administrator Zeldin met with his Mexican counterpart to discuss steps Mexico needs to take to ensure the water entering the United States is clean and safe. And he's holding a press conference in San Diego today with elected officials and local stakeholders on the Tijuana River sewage crisis. I would also add from the president himself, he has always maintained he wants America to have the cleanest air and the cleanest water. And we want to do what's right for our environment and for our earth. And a lot of that is making sure that we have clean and sustainable energy. And we know that we produce natural gas cleaner and more efficiently than any country in this world. And the president wants to see that continue.
Thank you. And then on the Supreme Court, I know the court is hearing a case dealing with parents who don't want their kids having to read gender ideology books in schools. Can you comment on that case and what the Trump administration hopes to see come from that?
Sure. We hope the Supreme Court will do the right thing. And the president has been very clear. He stands on the side of parental rights, and he believes strongly that parents should have a greater say in their children's education and the content, if you will, that children are being exposed to in our public school system.
Well, yeah, but that's why we need to ramp up the conservative viewpoints at the local level, right? State level, local level, because that's where that kind of sausage is made. I don't even know, even President Trump's hand has to dip down to all of these layers to make sure that happens. And the truth of the matter is, you know, a lot of these schools and everybody else not listening. You know, the parents have to be in full-fledged revolt in order for them to protect their children against the government, the local governments. You know, so I'm just saying, you know, more work needs to be done. And I don't think that the Republicans are using the courts as effectively as the Democrats are using them to stop things going on. There's got to be some right-leaning judges who can make certain kind of rulings just as effed up as the Democrats, and I think y'all should use some of that. And once again, I'm gonna say, indict Letitia James or just shut the hell up about it. I'm not talking to you per se, but all these rumors that she's crooked and nobody's doing nothing about it makes it worse. Indict her ass, or just shut up.
Sure. Go ahead. Hi.
I'm Carolina Lumetta with World News Group. The administration ended some temporary protections for Afghans, including several hundred Christians who have been punished by the Taliban. Is the president considering any exceptions for Afghans who could face death or torture if they return to their home country?
So let's just be clear about one thing. We didn't end that proactively. It expired. And it's because the previous administration illegally paroled millions of people, or hundreds of thousands of people, I'm sorry, into the country, and then gave them temporary protective status, which again is a temporary status. It's not a permanent status in this country. And if there are individuals here who came in through the Biden administration who want to claim asylum, there is a legal process to do that. And those cases will be adjudicated by a judge on a case-by-case basis. We have a legal immigration process in this country for a reason, and all this administration is trying to do is effectuate that. Reagan.
Yeah, so let's just stay on that, right? So again, she's right about all that stuff about the immigration process. Again, we need the Supreme Court to be more proactive on certain issues when it comes to immigration and the injunctions that these district judges keep levying over even small pieces of the damn thing. Like all these Nicaraguans that we can't send out of the country. And even Nicaragua saying they won't accept them back. I'd say, listen, what's you going to do? What are they going to do? Right? But those people are never going to be free again in our country. And they don't want us to put them in Gitmo. Right? So, I can see, here's one thing I do concede. I think it was a mistake for doing those photo ops at the Salvadorian prison. Right? I don't know who that was for, but once they did that, you're going to pull on the heartstrings of a lot of weak-kneed bastards here in the United States. So when we know that when you send somebody to one of those prisons, they're not getting out. So it's not really far-fetched to see all the bleeding heart liberals, trying to be sorry for the worst killers and murderers, And so I think that was a mistake showing it. But anyway, but there you go. So it is what it is. And from what I understand, they're still deporting a lot of people. Maybe not under the Aliens and Enemy Act, but just regular deportations are going on without fail.
March deportation numbers were down slightly from the same time period last year. SCOTUS recently ordered a pause on deporting Trinidad members with the Alien Enemies Act. I'm curious what other tools the administration is looking at to boost those deportation numbers.
Sure. Well, we are obviously complying with the court's order. However, it was a temporary pause. The Supreme Court basically said, sit tight, and they will follow up with an order. And we're confident that the Supreme Court will rule on the side of law and recognize the president absolutely has the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our nation's interior under the Alien Enemies Act. We feel very strongly about that, and we're confident the courts will side with the president and his executive authority. As for deportations, we continue to deport illegal criminals under Title VIII, which is an immigration authority given to our Border Patrol agents and the Department of Homeland Security to deport illegal criminals from this country. And the administration continues to do that at record speed as quickly as they can with the resources that they have.
They recently dropped charges against the MS-13 leader caught in Woodbridge, Virginia, with the idea that this will expedite the deportation process. Does the administration plan to drop charges against other criminal illegals to speed along the deportation process?
You'd have to ask the Department of Justice. Obviously, that's within their purview, and I can't speak for them. However, it is our goal to deport as many illegal criminals and aliens from our country as we possibly can, as quickly as we can.
Oh, listen, you drop charges, they'll better damn sure be there to pick that guy up as soon as he comes out of whatever detention center he's in, so he doesn't get back into the public spaces. So I hope that's part of the plan. So she didn't go into those details, but I'm assuming that's part of the plan.
heard so much about this Saudi trip planning, and the president's mentioned it himself before.
I
but
think that's
we
probably
were
the
on
last
record
thing I want to
folks
talk about with
leave
this
Saudi
press
Arabia
conference.
and what the
The rest of it is the
is.
president's
Sure.
trip
Well,
and
the
stuff
president
like
looked
that.
forward to this.
So we're gonna end
Was
this live and just kind of move on. But anyway, hey man, what's going on, Curtis? You know, hey, this is Friday, man. I had nothing else to do, so I just thought I'd come up and look at this press conference and say a few words. I'm ending it now. Yeah, the Trump administration is implementing a wage garnishments. Yeah, for those. Listen, I have mixed emotions about the student loan program, and I'm glad I came to my senses. I didn't like it at all when it first came out. The only thing I thought about was that we have a whole generation of people coming out of school who can't dream. They can't. They made mistakes and they can't dream. And the only reason why I had a little bit of soft belly for them was because we bail out multi-billion corporations all the time. I mean, it probably dwarfs some of this stuff for the student loans. So we bail out multi-billionaires and billionaire corporations all the time. So why not give the damn citizens, young people, a chance to recoup from making a mistake? So I know some people who got their student loans, they still had to do something. They didn't just wipe it away. They still had to show that they were going to pay. They had to sign up for these programs and stuff, I believe. And then they finally got whatever's remaining waived. So, but now that I'm thinking about it now, okay, we had a little stupid window under Biden. Actually, they should have got a judge to enjoin him from doing that. But the Republicans don't fight the way the damn Democrats do. What they're doing now, they could have stopped Biden from using that money by court order. Find a Republican judge to put an injunction on spending, giving that relief. But they didn't do that. I think they don't know how to fight like the Democrats are fighting in terms of using lawfare. I think that's something they need to learn how to do. But now with this, with what Trump is trying to do, I say, yeah, stick it to everybody, man. Make them pay their loans. My daughter had to pay her loans back. She didn't have as much, but she I made sure she paid those damn things off. So, yeah, you create a bill, but they need to fix the program as well. They need to fix the program as well. Anyway, I don't think people should be able to borrow $100,000 to get some meaningless ass degree, right? If you got a bullshit degree, maybe you can't borrow more than maybe $10,000 a year. If you're going for a doctor's degree, that's one thing, or a doctorate. If you're going for engineering or STEM degree, yeah, you can get a little bit more money because we know those jobs can help you pay it back. But when this bullshit that most women, especially like black women, they talk about being the most degree, but you ask them what their degrees are in, it's all a bunch of bullshit. And they can't make no ends meet, even with those degrees. So anyway, man, thanks for stopping by, man. I'm just rattling off the jibs, man. I had enough. I just thought I'd come on live, man, and just look at Caroline. This is my new spokeswoman. I have to hear what she has to say. Anyway, man, thanks for stopping by again, man. Over and out. Marriage, politics, and sports. Over and out.